How you all doing?
Great.
Good.
Morning.
Okay, so let me open the meeting.
Mhm.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jean Warnick. I'm co-founder of the Family Success Institute along with Tom. It's an exciting day today. It's been some exciting stuff that has happened, and let's get into it. Tom?
Thanks, Gene. Did everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. Oh,
And
good.
Senator, very
Yes.
happy you're with us. So it has been a very interesting last couple of weeks. And first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming to the meeting today. Because when Gene and I started this a number of years ago, which I won't reveal because it's been a long time, we always recognized that some little dinky new nonprofit is really not going to be able to do much in the world. But we also recognize that there are so many people out in the community who believe in this ideal of family success and are doing the work. And what's happened in the last couple of weeks is testimony to the work you're doing. It's not what we're doing, it's testimony to the work that you're doing. And so on behalf of the Institute, I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for everything that you have been doing and being the heart of the family success movement. The good news is that we have, and Tim will talk about this more, but we had a victory in the Assembly Committee, which Tim will talk about, which was incredibly exciting. And it really was driven and informed by members of the learning community. The testimony of people who jumped in at very short notice was amazing. So I want to thank Dominique Lee, Brian Evans, Kathy Rowe, Doug Goulding, Gloria Tansky, my friend Kathy Collins, and everybody just jumped in and really carried the day for us at that hearing. And it's a testimony to the strength of the learning community and the work that you're doing. So that was a big deal. The second thing is that you know better than I about our community action forums and our absolute commitment to engaging community organizations that residents trust to have a voice in this process. And when we started that community action forum process, we were shooting optimistically for 12 community action forums. And this week, we have reached 40. There have been 40 community action forums around the state. And so we're very excited about that. And we believe it really is a testimony to the trust that local residents have in the work that you all do. And so we're very, very gratified about that. And then at the end of the week, we got the horrible news of a just incredibly sad child death in Newark and the arrest of a mom for endangerment of her children. And so we have this sort of thrill of victory, agony of defeat experience, and a reminder of why this work is so important and why we have to keep on keeping on with this work, because it's the death of a 6-year-old child is just not acceptable in our state or in our country or in the world. And so I think we all have to raise our game and recommit ourselves to why we're doing this in the first place.
Tom, I'm going to interrupt you because we've had another notable guest. Senator Vitale has just joined us.
Perfect. Go for it, Timothy.
As chair of the Health and Human Services and Senior Citizens Committee, he plays a vital role in the progress of our legislative initiative. And thank you, Senator, for joining us. I'm going to ask Julian Cherry to give a brief introduction and allow Senator Vitale to share some remarks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Julian Cherry. I'm the proud president and CEO of the United Way of Greater Union County. And I want to welcome Senator Joe Vitale. He is over Legislative District 19. He is a great friend to the United Way of Greater Union County Success Center, and he has seen us in motion. So welcome, Senator, to the meeting. I know you only have about 15, maybe 20 minutes to join us. Would you like to say some words?
Of course. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the invitation, Julian. And Tim, it's great to see you.
Yes,
It's been a while. We've worked well together over the years. And being a good friend. Can you hear me okay?
Hear you great.
Good, good, thank you. So again, thanks for the invitation, and more than anything else, thanks for all that you do as an organization, the United Way, plus all your partners in the community, the local government, state government, county government, everyone who has an interest in improving the lives of those we serve. That's a pretty broad statement, but you all do that work on the ground and see it every single day. I mean, I've always said, for people ask me what's effective in terms of, you know, people testifying in my committee or telling their story. It's always those who do the actual work. You know, you could come in with, you know, with paid lobbyists and others who advocate for people, but those who do the work on the ground, who see these faces of people every day, that matters, because that's where the truth is. That's where the reality really hits. And so, you know, our committee, and I've been fortunate to be the chairman for, you know, a number of years now. You know, we've tried to tackle more of the most vexing issues in terms of affordability, whether it's healthcare or housing or food insecurity. You know, it runs the gamut, as you know, Tim. You know, we've worked together on lots of different issues, and so, you know, I'm just happy to be a part of that process that helps people advance their lives and serve them. It's not easy. You know, you hear a lot of potentially bad news coming out of Washington, D.C. in terms of funding cuts, whether it's, you know, particularly Medicaid, food programs, things of that nature that really trouble us on a state level because of the economic impact it would have on us. Any small cut, any change in policy out of Washington can have a devastating effect on people and our budget. You know, the Department of Human Services is the largest department in our state by far, and they're tasked with some of the most important issues that we face and trying to resolve them and solve them. And so in my conversations with the department in terms of what could happen, the commissioner has modeled different scenarios for Medicaid cuts, what that would mean downstream in New Jersey, and it's not pretty. And so, you know, everything that we do in New Jersey now is focused on trying to prepare for what may happen and respond accordingly. It's my view, and I'm sure you share this, that, you know, from my perspective at least, you know, serving people, making sure that they have enough food to eat, a roof over their head, enough money to be able to, you know, buy a car, have a job, do all those things that some people take for granted, but with where people struggle every single day, should be our focus first and foremost. And so that's my focus.
Well,
If anybody has any questions or comments, I'd be happy to speak with you about it, either now or any other time for that matter.
Senator, I have to say those comments are so relevant to the moment we find ourselves in right now, and it is a strange assemblage of a timeline that your role in this effort to both advance a really important piece of legislation, but also to recognize the value of the people who've joined us here in the learning community occurs right at a moment when we are really confronting serious headwinds at the federal level that are not going to go away. We may have time to touch on some of that later in this meeting, but in addition, recognize that it's the people here in the learning community, in the community, whose voices are going to be essential to redirecting and correcting what I think is a really unfortunate and damaging prospect at the federal level, as you described. And the fact that our state, and in many respects under your leadership in that committee, continues to be a voice and a force for those who need support to get by and need support to succeed, as we call it in Family Success. You're a champion of that. So thank you so much for being here and for championing our cause. We hope to see you at the chair of your committee, and we will certainly be pleased to have members of this learning community testify before your committee when this bill comes up.
Sure. No, I know. I think the Senate bill is 3391, I think.
3301.
3301. Right. Senator Gopal is the sponsor, and in fact, I'm planning to have a conversation with him today about some other issues, and I'll bring that up. I think that our next committee hearing will be after the April break, and so we'll make sure that's on our agenda. so that we can have you all come down and testify to its importance and relevance, particularly now. You're right, Tim. It's we don't know what will happen. We know that even as it is today, without any cuts from Washington, it's always a struggle to be able to make ends meet. Talking about literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of New Jerseyans who depend on these services, and and again, any small cut can be devastating for them. And so, changing Medicaid numbers, the match from the federal government, if it changes from 50 to 38, if they decide that the expansion program is something they don't want to support, or they require, individuals to work where it is that many work already who are on Medicaid, and we have folks who are disabled or seniors and others who depend on that resource for literally living every single day. So we're on it with you on this. It's going to be a very noisy time, particularly now with the budget coming up in our budget in New Jersey in April, where we all debate on how to spend our state's money, the taxpayers' dollars, and your voice and your voices will be no more important than anyone else's. And the old expression, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but there'll be lots of individuals and organizations looking to have their resources and their support from the state continue or restored. And so your voices will be critical in terms of contacting legislators and others who make these decisions. And I know personally lots of the folks who I serve with on the committee and the legislature care deeply about these issues. No one wants to see someone go hungry or not have a place to live or to succeed or have services that are available to them continue to be. These are folks who get up every day, want to support themselves, their families, go to work, have a life, like everyone else, not asking for any more or any less, just a hand up and some support when they need it. And so your voice is going to be critical among other, all there are dozens of organizations who will be supportive of making sure that we continue the services that we can here in New Jersey. So I'm always here for a call, Tim, or anyone else for that matter. Just reach out if you see anything or need to know any information or where we are on particular issues. But 3301 will come up in the spring, and look forward to seeing you down in Trenton for testimony and support.
Thank you so much, Senator Vitale. And I want to recognize immediately, because we have a number of legislators here, two of our champions of this cause. The first being the Reverend Assemblyman Reginald Atkins, who's been a champion in the Assembly for 2 sessions, bringing this legislation forward. And before he speaks, I would like to recognize again Senator McKnight, who as an Assemblywoman was a prime sponsor of this bill and continues to champion it today. And Senator McKnight, I hope you're still on our meeting Zoom and would take a minute to share with this audience how important this bill is and how your support has been so steadfast.
Yes, thank you so much. And first I want to say, our chairman, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your support and for wanting to have this bill up and pushing everyone who's on the call to come down to testify the importance. And he's absolutely correct. The voices, when we hear the voices, things move. And I continuously be a supporter of this bill for all families, the unification of families, the support, wraparound services for families. And this group here who's on this call and who's not even on, thank you for giving out, having meetings and account. It's amazing, all here together. There's one thing, the family. I will continuously be a supporter. I'll reach out to Tim Gopal as well. And you heard it, our chairman. He's looking forward to having this up. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here. And thank you all for continuously being a huge advocate for me.
Thank you, Senator, 100 times over. And before I recognize again our other Assembly champion, I just want to thank Mike Iliano, who's the Legislative Director for Senator Gopal, who could not work is scheduled to join this meeting, but has asked his legislative director, Michael Leon, who's been instrumental in carrying the bill through now 3 legislative sessions to get it to the point we're at now, for joining this meeting. Mike, thank you. May come back to you later with questions about how we proceed, but having Senator Gopal and Senator Vitale communicating over how we get this bill into committee is a great step forward for us. And now, recognizing that, as Tom mentioned last week, this bill and our efforts over 4+ years took an enormous step forward when, on very short notice, on a Thursday, we were notified that this bill, which is Assembly Bill 4365, the Community Recovery and Family Success Act, was going to be heard in the Children, Families, and Food Security Committee in the Assembly on Monday. To give a sense of the tenacity and strength of this learning community, between Thursday and Monday, and we had 8 members of this committee commit themselves to be in Trenton on that day, to write testimony, confine their comments to 2 minutes, which was a reasonable requirement given the volume of people there in support of the bill, and deliver their testimony. And the result was a unanimous vote of the committee, a unanimous vote, 6 Democrats, 2 Republicans, all voting in favor of the bill, demonstrative of its fundamental importance and common sense. Supporting families makes sense. Throughout this and throughout the last 3.5 years, the person who, in a legislative role, has never let go and continued to be supportive is Reverend Assemblyman Reginald Atkins. And thank you many times over, and we'd love to hear a few comments from you before we move on, Assemblyman. You're on mute.
I'm
There you
blessed,
are.
honored to be here
Morning.
with you once again. I love this because this is what it's all about. You know, from the very start, from the very beginning, I told you we would get this across the finish line. We were able to do that in the Assembly. Now it's marching on to the Senate. I believe that my Senate colleagues over on the in the Senate House will make that happen with McKnight, Vitale, and then Gopal. And I'm just a believer that this is what's important. Somebody asked me, Rev, why is this so important? It's important because families face real struggles. Single parents are juggling multiple jobs. Children are lacking proper educational support, and it's a battle in this cycle of not being in poverty. And it's amazing, but even in our committee meeting that we had, that it was unanimously voted out, it just shocked me and amazed me that even the Republicans said, you know, I came to this meeting with the purpose of saying no. But after hearing the testimonies, after hearing you, Rev, after hearing, you know, Tim, after hearing, you know, people that came forth and testified, I had to say yes. So it's very, very important that we empower families, that we prevent crisis before it happens, that we break down the barriers, and this particular bill does that. $4 million, okay. We understand that we're faced with a budget, but let's be honest about this particular bill. We cannot afford to wait any longer to get this done. A year or so ago, we already had appropriated $4 million out of the budget. And this is going to actually seal the deal. If you think about it, we really can't afford to wait or not to do it, because this is the blueprint for change. This is it. It's urgent. And our voices matter in this particular situation. It mattered in the Assembly. It's going to matter in the Senate. And then it's on to the governor's table. So I'm excited. I think together we can create strong families, safer communities, and we can build a brighter future, not just for us, but for the next generation. So we're going to do this. We're championing it, and even when it goes over to the Senate side, I'm going to be right there testifying, just like I am, with all the enthusiasm, because this is what it's all about. It's about not just us, but about our next generation in helping them. The power should be in the hands of people who understand the need, the people who do the services, and as a result, we'll make that impact. Thank you so very much for allowing me to champion the bill, and I believe that we're going to do this. You know, success centers throughout the state. I'm local to Julian Cherry and all the great work that she's doing. I'm just amazed at some of the things that comes forth out of that success center on a weekly basis, and I'm excited to just celebrate the success that families are going to see, because they're going to be stronger because of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman.
Tim, you're on mute.
Tim, you're on mute.
Tim, you're on mute.
Well, there you go. A little wake-up call. Thanks. I just said, thank you for your words and your action, Assemblyman. And we have other legislators who may join us during the meeting. We'll come back to them when they show up. But in the meantime, we'll turn the discussion back to Tom and the following items.
Assemblyman, you are, I keep saying this, but you are a prince. You are an inspiration, and stick with us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I began to talk about the community action forums that we had hoped to have 12, and this week we've reached 40. And this has led us to rethink a little bit the process of moving towards the summit we've talked about. So I'd like to ask Erica to give us an update on where we are with the community action forum process and the thinking about the summits. Erica?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Erica. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives for the Family Success Institute. Maybe some of you know me just from working on the community action forums. We've had an overwhelming amount of just partnership and collaboration from a lot of people on this call right now. So I always feel like I have to start by saying thank you so much. You really helped to make the Community Action Forum initiative, as Tom mentioned, more than we imagined at the outset. This week coming up, we have 2 community action forums, and those will be our 39th and 40th community action forums. So it's really, really exciting. I wanted to share a quick update that we're excited about in regards to the statewide summit. At this stage in the Community Action Forums initiative, what has become really apparent is the benefit of hosting regional gatherings as a key middle step in our progression from the 40 local forum gatherings we've had to then a single larger statewide summit. So the planning for these 4 regional CAF meetings is currently underway for gatherings between May and July is what we're aiming for. The goal is to bring together all of the organizations that participated in the Community Action Forum initiative by 4 main regions: North Jersey, Central Jersey, South Jersey, and the Jersey Shore. So these regional meetings will provide opportunities for expanded connection and mobilization around the aspirations and issues that were raised in the local community action forums in a space that we hope will be really informed by an overarching regional context. The CAF regionals, we don't have the full name yet. So in my head, I've just been calling them regionals. I don't know if anybody also played, high school sports, but that's kind of how I'm thinking of it. So the regionals will provide an opportunity for community members from different organizations and communities within the same region of the state to connect, share, and organize with one another. Expanding upon the format of the CAFs, however, the regionals will also aim to further embed in the community members who participated in the community action forums through leadership and advocacy training that will equip and encourage community members to continue to use their voices, insights, and organizing power to achieve the visions that they have laid out for their families and communities. The CAF regionals will also feature an expert-led design thinking modality that will guide community members in creative and innovative solutions to the issues raised during the local community action forum meetings. These community designed solutions, as we're thinking of them, from each region will then directly determine the program and the format for the statewide summit, and the effort to connect community members and the proposed solutions with decision makers who can carry those proposals further. So we're really excited about this opportunity to further deepen our connections and relationships with the communities that really drove the CAFs forward. And it's our hope that, each community member will really come away with something from these regional meetings.
Any questions or thoughts? Eric, I say this every time we talk, but the job that you've done in getting these community action forums going with all of our local partners has just been amazing. So thank you so much for what you've done. And it was an interesting process because our original plan was to go from community action forums to a statewide summit. And thanks to the voices of folks like Anita Voot from Monmouth County and Kathy Rowe and Erica, people felt we had left out a big step, which was the whole idea behind this, was to assure that this whole process is driven by the voices of residents and community folks. So we have changed this, I think, in a better way. And thanks for everybody for insisting on a better way forward. So any thoughts or questions from anybody about the community action forum process?
Well, I would just like to say that if any of you have done a community action forum at your site and you'd be interested in hosting a regional forum, reach out to us, reach out to Erica, and we can get this process started. It's really exciting. We'll be able to engage stakeholders from the community action forums and bring in new stakeholders. And we all know that the community voice is what needs to drive change.
I saw a question, dates for the regionals. We're aiming for between May and July. So the dates are going to be largely obviously influenced by the organizations that are participating, but the range that we're kind of hoping for is this early summertime.
I see that Andrew Selby is already offering CPAC to do one.
Amazing. This is great. Thank you, everybody.
And Candace Sparks from Monmouth Acts. Fantastic.
Awesome. I will definitely reach out to everybody. I'll also drop my email in the chat too for anybody who wants to reach out.
Erica, you could count on United Way,
Thank
Union
you.
County, to do one as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Terrific. Any other thoughts or questions? Candace, thank you so much for your offer. And I'm, in Monmouth County, they originally completed a needs assessment, and the community action forums were formally included in the county deliberation. So that was and Candace pulled that all together. So Candace, thank you for stepping ahead and also all the work you've done, because it's been really invaluable, just terrific. So we usually have planned voices from the community. As you know, we have people come in and give presentations about, what they're up to, and it's, fairly formal process. But as we planned this meeting, we decided to do something a little bit different, because I don't need to tell you how scary and tumultuous these times are. We have serious challenges ahead. And as the senator said, the heart of our work is not what we're doing, it's really what you all are doing. So what we've decided for this meeting is to have a wonderful facilitator named Kathy Rowe talk with you about what you're seeing out in the community, what the biggest challenges you're facing, and your best thinking about how do we move ahead together. One thing I can say is that we're a strong, resilient group. We've been through a lot together, and you can see that there has been some progress. But if this, my experience is you don't really grow and learn from, you know, the good times, you grow and learn from the tough times. And we have to figure out how we're going to stick together and support one another and, you know, fight through the, you know, the challenges that are in front of us. So we're looking for voices from the learning community today. And Kathy Rowe, I will turn it to you.
Thanks, Tom. You know, I sent out some emails before this meeting started, just, you know, asking people to come because it's really important, you know, that we hear from you. I remember just a couple weeks ago going up to the United Way of Central Jersey, and it was my second trip to their office, and all of a sudden there were giant signs up, "Do not enter," you know, unless admitted, you know, because of fear of ICE coming in and raiding different meetings and, you know, places where people were getting help. And I was stunned. And I realized that, you know, a lot is changing and, you know, we've got to talk about that. So I'd kind of like to open it up and say, you know, what are you seeing on the ground? What are you seeing in your organization? And how can we work together to support each other and our communities? Throwing it open.
This is Candace Sparks with Monmouth Axe. We have created a monthly call with many of our community partners to discuss what they're seeing. They share ideas on how to keep their community members safe, abiding within the laws, of course. So we're giving our community partners a safe space to have those conversations amongst each other, and to share those ideas. So that's one of, you know, I'm with the county, so we are limited in what we can do, but we can give them that safe space.
So you're finding that if you just keep communication open more, that seems to help?
It helps. We're able to communicate various things. So, for example, our director of social services has made it clear that social services is open, nothing has changed. You know, we don't share anything with ICE because that's not, they don't need to. As long as people are eligible for the services, they get the services. So we have not, as far as I can tell from the conversations we've had with him, then we have not seen a reduction, for example, in the number of people applying for services. There's been some up and down depending on the organizations of whether or not residents were still coming to their physical sites, but those numbers seem to be increasing because people just need, I mean, you can really only stay in the house for so long, right? So people need food. So they're seeing them at the food pantries. That may have decreased initially, but those numbers are going back up. So, but one of the things that we found very helpful for our community partners was making sure that they had a safe space to share with each other. And knowing that those of us here at the county, or at least in the Department of Health and Human Services, you know, will provide as much support as we can.
Fantastic. Kathy Collins, you're in Monmouth also. What are you seeing?
Regarding this, well, I was just thinking that many of you know that we have Monmouth Axe in Monmouth, which is our Human Service Advisory Council that we created it many years ago to be a private-public partnership, and also to have span the whole needs that families and residents have from upstream to crisis, and we have trouble with the upstream part. You know, the inertia of all the money going towards distress has been hard. But these calls that Candace talked about, there are scores of agencies on there that we wouldn't have known each other unless we had the experience of Monmouth Axe in the last few years. And we wouldn't have traversed a county that I have to be kind of careful here, but we have political issues. We have that we can dive underneath, and we can take care of our residents without worrying too much about who's on one side and who's on the other. And it's been a wonderful experience. And we've tried very hard to go upstream, you know, with the issues that we've dealt with and done more prevention and more doing more resident voice. And all of this has kind of brought a myriad of agencies together that have different funding, that have different supporters, that have different missions, but all have the same mission of serving the residents of our county and hearing their voices. So I've really appreciated how robust these conversations have been. And mostly I think because of our experience with Monmouth Axe in the last 7 or 8 years. So.
Anita, what's happening in Camden County? Anita Whipple? Anita, you there?
Yes, hi, I'm here. Hello, everyone. So in Camden County, we are just keeping our hand on the pulse on what's happening with all of the different cuts. So we're happy to say that HUD money is coming through. You know, we have to change a lot of the verbiage, taking everything out related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So looking at different programming, FEMA, for us, they did not hand out any more FEMA funds. So we're just looking to fill those gaps in that area. So, but other than that, the community, as always, is pulling together and making sure everyone have what they need.
Fantastic. And thank you for offering to host a regional, because that would be terrific down there.
Oh, you're welcome. No problem.
Candace Palmer, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, ma'am, I did. Thank you. My name is Candace Palmer from Oceans Family Success Center in Asbury Park. We cover the greater Asbury Park area. And when you were talking about how the community has been affected, in the beginning of the year, we had a huge undocumented population that would come through our pantry. But as soon as the transition came in, they were nothing, totally gone. However, a couple of weeks later, when we started to hand out some guidances to those that are documented, the word got out that we are a safe space. So we started to see an increase. However, not in the manner that we had prior to. What we did find is, and what we did do is, we partnered with, I was on another meeting, unfortunately, don't remember what it was, actually physically in a meeting, and can't think of the name of it at the top of my head right now. But they were saying in that meeting that they had some undocumented that didn't want to go out, didn't know where they could go, that they were safe. So we opened our pantry to do what we call a appointment meeting or an appointment pantry pickup. And so that has been successful, where we've opened our pantry on appointment so those folks can feel comfortable, can feel safe, and not miss out on the essentials that they need for their families. So we do a diaper pantry, we do a food pantry, and we ask that if anybody is undocumented and they're not comfortable coming to the regular pantry, that they just give us a call and we set an appointment and we let them come in and choose and receive goods as anyone else would receive. And that seems to be working.
Yeah, that sounds like a great solution. Darcy, what's happening at the YMCA? What are you seeing? You're on mute, Darcy.
To start with the family success, you know, we also have a baby pantry in 2 locations. I thought I would see a bigger drop in families coming out, but I'm really not seeing that much of a drop, because that's a real necessity. I mean, you know, you really need, you know, there's necessities and then there's diapers for babies. So we haven't seen that much of a decrease. With the Y, because we're one of the biggest childcare providers and aftercare providers, the Y has been very proactive about utilizing the YUSA, lawyers and compliance You know, we're here for all. That's our missions, our biggest mission statement, you know, part of it. So they've had to do a lot of work on what happens if a parent doesn't show up to pick their kid up because they've been picked up. What's the protocol for that? What happens if ICE wants to come into our gyms? Even though we're a nonprofit, we're a private nonprofit. So our greeting areas are all open to the public, so they can only go so far, but they can't go into the facility past the welcome desk. They've sent out copies of what an actual judgment looks like and where it has to be signed. So the WISE risk management is about how are we going to take care of families? How are we going to protect children? And then what do we do if for some reason somebody doesn't come to pick up a kid? You know, there's certain protocols that have been in existence that would be, you know, calling DCP&P. I mean, if someone doesn't pick up their kid, but in these instances, you don't want to get a family in trouble. You need to find out. So there's some pre-planning that goes on. I think that there's been a lot of informal conversations with families, just to see what their family plan is so that the Y staff can make informed decisions. So I think that the Y's been extremely proactive with I'm not in childcare, you know, and I don't work at a gym, but, you know, as an organization, we have the branches, the gyms, the camps, the aftercare. We have counseling and social services. That's another whole thing. We have counselors that go into people's homes and give mental health therapy. So what happens if ICE comes when there's one of our professional counselors in the home? What should happen? So I think they've been very thorough and very proactive with giving us written policies and being available for us and having, you know, call-ins that we can ask questions. And it's sad, right? Because we're the why, you know, like we have to take care of kids. We have to keep the gym open, you know, there's a family success center, and it kind of detracts from what our real missions are. So it's been
And
a
it
lot.
changes everything, right?
It changes everything, you know, we're more in risk management than, you know, hey, let's be healthy. Let us watch your kids so you can go to work. Let's do some prevention with our family success centers. It's, you know, it puts everybody in a place of fear instead of a place of growth.
Yeah. Let's hear from another family success center. Thank you, Darcy. Carolyn McCombs, you have your hand up? You're on mute,
Yes,
Carolyn.
thank you. Thank you, Kathy. I want to just echo everything everyone else has said. We've had to educate our staff. We've connected with legal entities that really specialize in immigration. And I know that there are a few entities around the state that are advocates for immigrants. So I strongly encourage all of us to just stay connected with them as closely as possible. But one of the things that we have done, which has been extremely helpful, is we've set up a WhatsApp group and we've made it a very safe place. Right now, we have over 200 parents signed up in that group, most of them moms with young kids, and they've become their own supportive community. So they've been able to exchange information and keep each other informed around how to be safe, what their rights are, I mean, they communicate on the fly. ICE is here or ICE is there. And that has been extremely empowering for our families as they come together in a supportive community. So I know the use of technology can be an asset to
Yeah,
us.
Carolyn, could you just explain a little bit, you know, I mean, I've used the WhatsApp app, but could you explain a little bit about why you chose that particular app
Sure.
and why it makes people feel more comfortable?
We've chose that app because one, you can only enter the chat room if you're invited. So it's not an open forum where anyone can enter. And one of our staff members oversees that. So she vets the people before they they have to be known by someone in the community. You just can't raise your hand and say, oh, can I join your WhatsApp group? And so it has become a very safe place, and they don't have to leave their homes, and they can communicate. I think even if they don't have cell service, it's very accessible.
Right.
And so that's really been a great asset.
Fantastic. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, Dr. Davis, I see you had your hand up.
Sure. Hello, I'm
Thank you.
DeLacy Davis, the Executive Director for the New Jersey Alliance of Family Support Organizations and the Director of the Union County Family Support Organization. So we've had quite a few things happen. So the New Jersey Alliance, what we've done is, in addition to our cohort leadership training, has added advocacy for some of our directors because this is a new area for some folks. Some of our FSOs, particularly in South Jersey, the staff are terrified. And so we really have had to work with them. We were just in Atlantic City yesterday, working with the staff and the organizations and the leaders. Additionally, in Union County, we're asking the Union County Probation Department, the judge, the presiding judge, as well as the prosecutor, are you going to make accommodations for the young people whose parents are undocumented? Because clearly they don't want to go into the courts with their children and risk being taken away from their children. And so we're sitting on a local board trying to work out accommodations in the best case scenarios. Additionally, some FSOs have food banks, and so they've seen a significant increase because the FSOs are not on the radar beyond the families that know they have food banks, but we do have 2 or 3, and so that's seen an increase. Additionally, we're preparing for the reduction in federal dollars because FSOs had not had an increase in 10 years, and 2 years ago we received $200,000 each. And so what we're encouraging staff to do, those cases where they're at capacity, to look at reduction in force, unfortunately, so we can maintain some services, and for those of us who've not filled them, to not fill those positions until such time that we know what our numbers finally look like. And then finally, I think that we're simply trying to stay partnered and connected. So I'm thankful to Tim and Tom and all of you, many of you whom I know, so that we're having these conversations and sharing the best practices with each other. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Rosella Roman, you got your hand up? There you are.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to echo what Carolyn was saying. One of the things that our agency did. Oh, let me just backtrack. I'm from Mobile Family Success Center in Middlesex County. We're the only mobile center on wheels currently, and we cover 5 different townships within Middlesex. Going back, so our managing agency is Catholic Charities, and one of the things that the agency has done is set out different, this is like beginning January to up until now, different types of like understanding the changes of immigration law. So we've been hosting those workshops virtually, in person within our site that, you need access to get into the building, right? Like there's a lobby, but then once you go into the conference room, you need access to get there. And I mean, as a staff member, it's quite scary because, we attend these immigration workshops, and to know that the lawyer is telling you like, what I tell you today may not be applicable tomorrow because it's constantly changing. So having to, be up to date to what's happening and letting families know, like, we are safe space, the agency is safe space, but whatever happens outside our doors, like that's different. So going back to the questions, like what are we doing? So we're not only providing families with the cards about knowing your rights, but what we're trying to let them know is that, like, we are a safe space, and if they have any questions, definitely do reach out to, an immigration lawyer. Within our agency, we do have an immigration department that they've done various workshops, and they even done workshops on like how to get their, I believe is their like working permits, but even then, I was sitting down translating, and it's rough when families have been here 10, 20, 30 years, and they tell you, I'm sorry, you don't qualify for certain things, or, why did you let this expire? And, I think that was one of the hardest thing I had to translate and tell a family, like, I'm sorry, you're not eligible. and to be careful when you're walking down the street, to be careful when you're picking up your child, and or just even going to and from work. So it's a challenge, and I'm hoping within this group I get more information to see how we could best serve our families. Because we are a mobile center, we kind of depend on the community and their sites and what are their protocols. So it's a lot to remember.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought, huh?
Hi,
Anybody?
Kathy. It's Juanita from
Hey,
United
Joe.
Way of Greater Union County. How are you?
Good.
Good. So I echo, everything that folks are saying. I think, we did lose, or it's frozen right now, about $300,000 in FEMA funds, which means that we're not going to be paying for shelter nights, emergency food, soup kitchens, rental assistance program. So we were kind of doing the work now to calculate in terms of how many people that's going to be impacted, because we have the definitive numbers for people who get rental assistance, but shelter nights and all of that is a little bit more difficult because it's counted by nights versus the person. And then really meeting with other partners in the community that have different types of resources that they can maybe able to assist. Obviously, it's stretching the same dollars for more, but really trying to be proactive about that communication so that folks know that these dollars are frozen at the moment and we can begin to plan. We are coordinating a meeting with our community partners. Julian and I are on the Human Services Advisory Council for the county, working with the department to really have an understanding of, as much as we can. As Rosella said, today's news is old news the minute that it's out, right? So we just don't know. For us, it's been a challenge in terms of helping to manage the misinformation. I think that we experienced that during COVID, where folks were just getting a lot of misinformation, and we're trying to guide folks to organizations in Union County that have the expertise and the lawyers in this space so that they go straight to folks that know versus, I heard this over, on some social media sort of site, right? So,
Right.
And then just really helping also to create policy. And I'm going to reach out to some of you that have spoken today, because I think that's really important to ensure that as nonprofits, we know what we can and can't do. That's really important for us, and helping our organizations understand that and have a policy and train their staff. We have folks in 3 different sites, right? We have youth programs. And so many of our young people are new Americans, and we want to be prepared to assist those families if and when something occurs that directly impacts them. And we want to provide them with the right information and the right guidance versus kind of floundering and not knowing for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with what is the right information, what is just a rumor, what is fear, and it spreads very quickly in communities.
Yeah.
And I know, I mean, the United Ways do such an amazing job with family success centers. That's why, Gloria, I'm going to ask, you're the last United Way on, so tell us what you're seeing. You're on mute.
I apologize. I had a colleague, Seth Capperdale from the Reformed Church of Highland Park, who was scheduled to be with us this morning. He's having challenges with his computer. So if someone could text him the Zoom access information, that would really be helpful. The number is 732-882-3193. So we're a direct service organization, and we do a lot of programming with immigrants, both documented and undocumented. And what we're seeing is echoes the experience of many of our colleagues on the call today. We have a healthy food program that operates in Jamesburg, where we work with the parents of 125 preschoolers at the elementary school there, many of whom are undocumented. We're hearing horror stories about families being torn apart, one spouse being detained, another spouse went for her immigration appointment and was received an ankle bracelet and was told to purchase her own ticket and exit the country by this Friday. We have families in our nurse family partnership program that are reluctant for the nurse to come to the home and visit with them because of the fear. We have challenges with people being reluctant to present themselves for tax appointments with our volunteer income tax assistance program. And it's just terrible. It's just terrible.
Well, hopefully we can reach out to Seth and he can jump on because he can even call in by phone. Aaron, if you could kind of reach out to him, we'd appreciate that. Lorenzo, what's going on in Asbury Park?
Oh, Kathy, I'm gonna echo what Candace said. I work in the Asbury Park location. I work at Community Affairs and Resource Center, particularly in the Domestic Violence Department. Similarly to Candace, I want to say that maybe the end of January was just terrible. We're very much used to receiving like a large population of Hispanic in the Hispanic community and a large population of Haitian Creole folks, but we weren't getting them. It was just us. It was just staff in the office. We were concerned, of course, for their safety and also, what that would transpire in the future. But as the days kind of went on, and I think it was just getting the news firsthand, and it was just trying to kind of accept like day by day. And so a lot of people were just very, very much in fear. But I think over time, they just kind of assimilated and they were like, you know what? I still need help. I still need help with SNAP applications, NJ Family Care, you name it, food banks. So we're going to go out regardless. If I'm taken, I'm taken, but I need to survive. So it was kind of survival mode for us. And so what we're doing in the community is we are doing Know Your Rights presentations. We are trying to do them in churches. We're doing them in schools. They're very low key. We don't post them in our social media because we don't want to like attract the wrong crowds into our presentations. We don't want to, create any more chaos for our clients. But we realize that that's working very well because we just kind of do word of mouth and we invite our clients, come to this church, come to this school, and they come and we're able to do presentations. We're able to do documents that will help give parents authority to a trusted person for power of attorneys for their kids. So we are trying to, navigate this whole situation, and I think it's working great.
Carol had an emergency. She had to cancel.
I'm sorry, somebody must have turned off their mute.
It's okay. But yeah, I think that I must say that as a community member and as a community advocate, I can see that, it is through the hard times that you realize, how strong you can be and how much of a support you can be. So I really do feel very much grateful to be in a position where I can, just educate, support, and be there for all those individuals that really do need that, because it's a lot of them, and I think our community needs us more than ever. So thank you so much for having me in this space and just kind of share all our experiences.
Okay. Tell them that we'll send them.
Gloria, do you want to mute?
Sorry.
We can do that.
You're not muted, so we're hearing your conversation. Thank you. Thanks, Lorenzo. That was really helpful. And if you have anything that you could share on your right, what are your rights presentations, folks can reach out to her, because I think more than ever, we have to start to share resources, share information, because it certainly sounds like, so much of us are all seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
Dominique, what's going on up in Newark that you're seeing with your program?
I'm trying to remain positive in the light of chaos. So I will admit this is a little hard conversation. I'm trying to mentally prepare myself every morning to be positive. I mean, similar to other communities, We're seeing the same effects, especially some of my colleagues who served our undocumented population here in Newark. There's a level of fear, low attendance to community events, figuring out other creative ways to meet and be proximate to the people that we're serving on the ground. Of course, federal cuts, frozen greenhouse reduction loans that basically stopped the considerable amount of projects here in our city in terms of redevelopment of for some low-income housing. Yeah, the list goes on. So now, you know, I think what I told my executive team yesterday is that the time for us to be resilient, strong is the time now as leaders of, you know, what we've said, the nonprofits. There's no other bulwark except for the court system right now that is kind of being a guardrail. And our job as leaders is to push the needle, have conversations, and be as creative as possible to still get it done. When there's just limited resources, when funding's drying up because everyone's needing funding right now. So foundations are hunkering down on their existing grantees and not expanding their pool, which I can see that strategy. But it's what can we do now to push on the system to be different? And I think this is why I'm doubling down on efforts to get this legislation passed personally. Because while the federal government can be in chaos, we can at least control something at the state level and see the innovation that's possible there. But yeah, these are very interesting times.
And you know, it makes me want to rip my hair out when I hear about like FSOs that haven't had an increase in 10 years. I mean, how do we continue to serve families when, you know, we can't even get an increase to agencies that are so important? I still have a couple of people with their hands up. How did I lose you? Charlie, do you want to talk about what ACNJ is doing?
Yes, thank you, Kathy. I know Mary Coogan was on earlier, but I think she left. But Mary, if you're on, let me know. I think she had to leave. So ACNJ, if you go to the ACNJ website, www.acnj.org, on that landing page is a petition to our New Jersey congressional delegation concerning the pending Medicaid cuts. I just want to say one or two quick things about that. You know, in New Jersey, there are 1.8 million people on Medicaid. Of those people, 830,000 children between 0 and 18 years old, another 80,000 young adults. But Medicaid not only funds family care, health insurance, it funds special education services in some instances for kids in schools. It provides services for the disabled population, for adults, and for seniors. It's a very robust program. If the congressional appropriation cut that's on the table were to go through, it would mean a $5.2 billion decrease to New Jersey. It would decimate health services for many of our residents. So the petition is going to the New Jersey congressional delegation. Specifically, we need Congressmen Van Drew, Smith, and Kane to support Medicaid in New Jersey. It's a program that is teetering at risk, and you'll see more detail on the website. So please, if you would sign it, it went up yesterday. I know immediately there were over 300 signatures. We're looking to get well over 5,000 signatures this week. So please go to the ACNJ website. Thank you.
We're starting to get short on time. Is there anybody else that would like to comment or share?
Kathy, I think
Kathy, Seth is here
joined.
now. Yeah.
Oh, Seth, terrific.
I am so sorry. I misplaced my computer between one meeting and the next. I was running around the hall looking for it, and then I couldn't get in on the link on my phone. So I'm finally here with you all. And I assume I'm supposed to just give you an update on sort of what's happened to refugee resettlement and in the state in the last 2 months. So I'm Seth Copperdale. I'm pastor at the Reformed Church of Highland Park with my wife, Stephanie. We've been here 23 years. And since 2006, I've run the Reformed Church of Highland Park Affordable Housing Corporation, which we created, starting to build affordable housing. We have 27 buildings we own and operate, but we extended it in 2016 to do refugee resettlement in the state. And that grew very quickly to the point where by this year, we had a total staff of over 200 people, with about 137 of those staff working with refugee resettlement, 3,500 refugees and humanitarian parolees that we are working with really over the bottom 2/3 of the state of New Jersey. We have big offices in Highland Park, New Brunswick, Trenton, Asbury, Neptune, and Vineland. Those were sort of our central hubs. Starting on January 24th, everything has been collapsing. January 24th, we got a cease and desist order saying we could no longer use State Department funds to support the refugees that the State Department had literally sent us as recently as January 19th. Overnight, I had to lay off 20 staff basically immediately. Not only though was it an issue of not having funding for staffing, it was also that I had resettled 172 people in November, December, January, renting units for them with the understanding that, as always, the State Department would cover the first basically 3 months and that we would work towards self-sufficiency with folks. So suddenly there was a huge burden. Plus, we had rented enough units to house 50 more refugees who were supposed to arrive at the end of January and early February. So now I had all this extra housing stock that we'd made commitments to landlords and we'd furnished places and we had to undo. So that was the first hit. 3 days into the next week after that Friday, the 24th hit, was when the government said they weren't going to pay the $3 trillion to people who they owed money to. And then it was blocked by a judge. And then it was rescinded by Thursday by the White House. And yet here we are in mid-March, and most of the money that we were owed that was tied into that moment has not been paid to us. So we're owed about $1.4 million as of today for contracts, for services rendered in January and February. That doesn't even count March expenses. We have added about 120 people to unemployment in the state of New Jersey. And that's U.S. citizens who've been here their whole life who lost their jobs due to what's going on. We're struggling with a very small staff to still work with basically the same numbers we were working with last year. And now all the people we are working with are under tremendous threat. So we have north of 2,000 Haitian clients currently, all of whom have been contributing to the New Jersey economy, working hard and self-sufficient in every way, who now are seeing that their TPS is being revoked, that their work permits are soon to go away and not be renewed. And so all these folks that I'm housing and who are self-sufficient are now in serious trouble. So there's like a cascade of problems that are all associated with this. Just to make sort of insult to injury was the first communication to our organization from ORR, Office of Refugee Resettlement, which is an arm of Health and Human Services. The first communication we've gotten from them, which wasn't instigated by us begging for the money we're owed for services rendered, was Friday when our agency, along with agencies nationwide, were asked if within 3 weeks we could be prepared to take white Afrikaners from South Africa as the only refugees permitted into this country at this point. To which we say a good old Christian hell no. As a pastor, I will say that's when that word was meant to be utilized. There's no way on earth that we will be pulled into an agenda of white supremacy and hatred. So not only are we scrambling for our lives as a nonprofit at this point, we're now trying to not be used for an agenda that is incredibly dangerous and against everything that we collectively believe in. So that's kind of that's the story on the ground here. We currently house 2,200 people in units that are leased in our name. That's 314 units statewide. Every first of the month, I write a check for about $600,000, and then I count on the fact that that refugees are self-sufficient people primarily, and most of those folks who we house are now fully paying their own rent and working hard. And I would say that I don't look for affordable housing for refugees. I look for low end of market rate housing. And that, you know, actually refugee families on the whole are way more on the path to self-sufficiency than a lot of families that find themselves in multi-generational struggles of poverty and different factors that make it hard to become self-sufficient. So it's important to me that we play up the self-sufficiency angle and not compete for the limited affordable housing options that are available in New Jersey. And we've never had to do that because folks often are coming with 2 or 3 breadwinners who are ready to go and to help make it work in New Jersey and thrive here. But that thriving goes away if you literally cut them off at the knees and take away work permits and undo things. And not only does it hurt them, it hurts the employers. I mean, we're in serious, serious trouble. Europastry in New Brunswick has added many, many shifts, adding tons of jobs, for example, largely because they start by calling us when they want to open a new line. They know they can get 50 awesome workers who just came to the country and who will be coached and supported, and language issues, et cetera, can be worked through. And then those new jobs create more new jobs. That's how capitalism works. Love it or hate it, that's how it works. And jobs create jobs, create jobs. So this whole idea of people stealing jobs is just completely ridiculous. And we're going to see in New Jersey that to be negative toward refugees and immigrants and to in any way not defend them is going to be a big damage. And I'll just end with this. It's not just the federal government that's damaging the state of New Jersey right now. It's also state legislators who don't have the spine to back the Immigration Trust Act, the Immigrant Trust Act. And I specifically call out every single Democrat. You know, my concern here is that even those who've co-sponsored the legislation are terrified to actually stand up for the Immigrant Trust Act at this point. You know, we've had the Immigrant Trust Directive, which was the best thing that Governor Murphy could have possibly done, and he did it, and it gave his whole governorship incredible credibility. I know that as the person who ran against him as the far left person in that last gubernatorial election, specifically on a sanctuary state with teeth kind of agenda. He had that, and he has been that. But the rest of the Democratic Party at this moment in the state is not standing up strong. And they're, you know, though most insiders tell me, Seth, it doesn't stand a chance. The Immigrant Trust Act doesn't stand a chance. And if it doesn't stand a chance, that means that driver's licenses for all, for example, now becomes a direct path for ICE to get everybody's data and to start deporting people. If it doesn't stand a chance, that means that 970 Broad Street, the Rodino building, becomes the place where we go straight from a registration into an internment camp 3/4 of a mile down the road called Delaney Hall with its 1,000 new beds. If we don't sign the Immigrant Trust Act, you're going to have people deported to El Salvador and to be under that dictator with his chaos, because tons of the people that he's sending are the very people who are living in New Jersey, having come across the border as asylum seekers. So I'll stop there. I really don't believe I'm overblowing any of this. Like, this is the level of chaos we're experiencing. And I know there's chaos everywhere. What I walked into the call just as you're talking about the billions, or was it trillions, lost to the state of New Jersey with Medicaid, et cetera. But that's just my perspective to add to the
Beth,
picture.
could you talk briefly about the work that you're doing with the unaccompanied minors and the victims of human trafficking, and what happens to those services?
So very briefly, we've had 47 staff working with between 1,000 and 1,500 youth per year coming into the state of New Jersey, coming out of ORR shelters, mostly kids from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. We had 5 offices in the state. Every case manager would work with about 60 kids per year, 30 at a time for 6 months. And it was to help them with adjustment services as they came into the country. That meant helping them with their immigration legal services, school enrollment, counseling, trauma support for anybody who's been traumatized on their way here, making sure that kids have what they need to thrive in this country. So our contract was with ORR. the average number of kids crossing the border back in June or May of last year was 362. It's now 4 per day. So just the crackdown, and frankly, President Biden had made a lot of the decisions that have led to the dramatic reduction starting last June. But it's at such a pace now that even if you're trying to flee safely as a child, you're being turned away. But we
Seth,
cannot continue to.
Seth,
Yes.
I hate to interrupt you in mid-sentence, but
Yeah.
I do want to recognize someone who is on a very tight schedule, and we want to
Yep.
come right back to you, and that is
No problem.
Assemblywoman Shema Hader, who chairs the Children, Families, and Food Security Committee,
Terrific.
allowed us all to speak in
Beautiful.
our testimony before the committee, which resulted in a successful release of the bill. Assemblywoman Hader, thank you for taking time. She's traveling, and we'd love to hear your voice and recognize the contribution you've made to advancing our legislation.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on this conversation. And really, it was not my contribution, but what all of you and your allies spoke about, that as you saw, even Assemblyman Kanitra moved his vote from no to yes. So you were very persuasive. You made your case very well. And I think that bill deserved to move. And I'm a great supporter of prevention, because I think A, it's much cheaper, and B, it's much less trouble on the families and children, and less heartache, less problems than trying to go after the fact and try to resolve that. So I think your vision and the way you're approaching this, the way you're trying to make families come together. There was one gentleman, my video doesn't allow me to see everyone. I can only see a few people on the phone, but who talked about getting fathers involved. There's very little work being done in that. We need much more of that. We need so much more of that, you know. So I think you have it right. You have all the different facets that need to be there, and it's a great way to move forward, and you'll have my support whenever you need it.
Terrific.
Thank you so much, and thank you for breaking out of your schedule. We hope to see you in the assembly soon. And now back to you, Seth.
I appreciate it, but I can also stop.
I'll be happy to hear you, meet you, anything you wish to say.
Okay. I would just say that the program is going to shrink to near nothing, accompanying now our program for unaccompanied minors, because there won't be children coming across the border. And so that program will also end. In terms of victims of trafficking, so far the funding has continued to flow, probably because there's congressional law about that. So we're working with about 75 victims of sex and labor trafficking currently through our program Stillwaters. So that one we hope will survive, at least for now. So.
Thank you, Seth.
Can I say something for
yes,
a minute?
please.
Talking about trafficking, I know my colleague Ellen Park, who chairs Judiciary, is trying to move a bill, because, you know, the other thing we have to be wary of is with the World Cup coming to New Jersey, events like that bring certain things with them and in their wake. And trafficking is one of the things we know we should be aware of. So I'm so glad that you're talking about it also, because that's something we need to be conscious of now and work towards preventing it, then be sorry afterwards that it got away from us, you know?
Good point. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Hader, with this learning community group, all of us have been huge proponents of prevention, but we want to pull you along with our journey, because now we're looking at, we don't want to just prevent, we want families to be successful. Every family, every child, you know, let's stop saying prevent bad things and start saying we need to do everything we can to make our communities and our kids successful. And we thank you so much for your support.
Now, please reach out to me anytime. You know where to find me. I'm always available. You know, I wholeheartedly support your endeavor. And if it's okay, may I step off, because we're pulled off on the side of the road so we don't get distracted, and we're getting late for our next thing.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me and giving me this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
And just to close on this section of the meeting, I just want to remind people that, you know, we're a learning community. And what do communities do when things get hard? We pull together. And so, you know, just listening to everybody sharing kind of the same feelings, we have to just, you know, ratchet up what we do and be a community and share with each other, reach out to each other. Anybody who has mentioned something that you're interested in, you know, if you need emails, you know, shoot us an email, shoot me an email, and I will make sure everybody gets the whole list. So thank you so much for this great conversation. And I'm going to turn it back to Tim or Tom. Who am I turning it back to?
Back to me.
Actually, may I? I'm hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I'll be very, very brief. This is Amber Randolph at the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation.
Oh, fantastic.
And I'm so happy to be here and listen in to all the things that you all are doing. I just wanted to ask if, and I'm just getting up to speed as I step into this new role, but are you all organizing or feel compelled to organize around the defunding of the CDFI fund? Of course, as I mean, so many things are collapsing. We're trying to organize folks to speak to the New Jersey delegation about that defunding, which supports so many community funders and lenders in the state. I'm happy to take that offline if this is not the appropriate place to bring that up. I also have a bevy of other questions, and I would love to just tap into whomever might be the right person to help us kind of get a better sense of what's going on and how we might be most effective.
Hey, Amber, it's Dominique. I didn't know you were
Hi,
going to be on the
Dominique.
call today. Yes, let's talk offline.
Great.
Yeah, if you want to meet, I can come to your office. We're not far away from each other.
Yeah,
But
we
yes,
can
I
Zoom too. We can Zoom too.
Okay. Cool.
But totally understand the urgency to move on to the agenda. Appreciate just those few moments.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and just question, Amber, I talked with the guy who's over community bacon at Chase. He said that while the executive order was issued, nothing really can happen because it's statutory. Is that true, or are you hearing something different?
I think what the way we understand it is it's stripping it down to the far minimum that they could go just above staying within the statute.
Got it. Okay.
Which eventually means, you know, destabilizing, which will probably be a bigger thing around Treasury, but we're very concerned about community funders and organizations in the state. So we're powering a lot of this work. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Amber. Tom?
Great. So it's now 9:53. We may have a chance, if I shut up quickly, we have a chance to get this meeting over quickly, but I hope that people can see the strength of this learning community and the members of the learning community. And I think we have a chance to really be an important force for positive change. There's no question that change is coming. And I think that when we started this, we were advocates for changing the status quo. So I think the question is, can we now stick together and fight for the change that we believe in, as opposed to some of the, you know, the darker forces? But I guess my parting question is beyond. I mean, because what you have all demonstrated today is competence and commitment beyond anything I can compare to, honestly. But I think we have to open our hearts further right now. I think we have to step our game up further, and we have to figure out how we can come closer together. And I think you heard from Senator Vitale, even talking about he wants to hear, and his committee wants to hear from people who are doing the work on the ground. So any ideas that you have about how we can actually come together at a next level, right now and then beyond, I'd love to hear, because you all can make the difference in a way that you can't imagine, and change is afoot, and we can be a force for positive change. So any final thoughts from anybody about how we can join our hearts and open our hearts and, you know, put our boots on and march together? I'd love to hear.
Well, Tom, I think our second step is to get this legislation passed, and we're going to need everybody on the learning community to reach out to the senators and share the same kind of stuff that we shared today, that we need family success legislation, you know, passed.
Any other thoughts before we adjourn? You're all amazing. You are all simply amazing. So thank you so
Yes,
much.
Tom, just
Oh.
a quick, I think meetings like this where we can come together and talk about it, and that builds that camaraderie and that builds that knowledge of what's happening. And it helps to build compassion, because sitting here listening, I'm listening with tears in my eyes, trying not to cry, because these stories are so, they hurt the heart when you see people struggling just to live, the right that they have just to live. That just doesn't make sense. Just to survive. This does not make sense. So it puts the power behind what can we do? And we want to jump on the bandwagon with both feet and say, you know, like, where do I fit in and how can I help? And I think these kind of meetings is a continuation is what's going to get us there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that the regionals that, as Erica mentioned, really give us an opportunity to, to gather our voices together. And I don't think we cannot be afraid to shed some tears, because people are hurting. And as I said earlier, I don't think we learn from the good times. I think we learn from the tough times. And we can go through this together and really make a difference. Every single person on this Zoom can make a difference for the future. And the more we stick together and open our hearts to one another and support one another, the better chance we have. So, Candace, I really appreciate your thoughts. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would like to say something, add to that. Can anyone see me?
And we can hear you, Sheena.
Okay. I've been going through a tough time. Especially with my mental health, and just seeing all this stuff happening where funds are being frozen or taken away. And as a parent, trying my best to keep sane, because getting a little help or maybe a little more is like a fight. And that's what I'm doing here. And it's only me and my community. And I'm doing everything I can to do my being proactive and being an advocate. And it seems like my back is against the wall, and trying to get services and things I need that I have to relocate to get better services, and it shouldn't be. And here in Jersey, we should have these funds to help people out. They just want to live better. They just want to be able to go to work. They want to be able to get transportation, to get back and forth, pick their kids up. What more can we ask for? We're not asking for handouts. We're asking for a boost to better our lives. And it's been a very much struggle. Just having a job and be able to get hired from a place can't work because I don't have proper childcare or I don't have any family or friends to help me out. And I have to do it. So it's been hard, especially with jobs. I've been getting hired so many jobs and I can't work because I don't have a reliable babysitter. So I had to find other outlets to figure it out. I'm just sharing with you guys that as a person that's actually going through this right now, that you see that this is really happening right now. And for them to strip these funds from us is not cool. And we need it, and we're going to fight, and we're not going to give up. And I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Gina, thank you. I would say that what you just expressed is really what this is all about. And it's going to take every single one of us beyond our job descriptions or our current commitments to fulfill our commitment to you. And I think we can talk further. I'd absolutely love to have a chance to talk to you further about this. But what you just expressed is really why we have to recommit ourselves. And And we can do it together. We absolutely can do this together. We are strong, we're resilient, we're emotional. How can you not be emotional? Feelings are incredibly important. The expertise in this room and the way you all know technology. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how to do a chat myself, and I don't think I'll ever learn, but I do know how to chat. So please keep up the good work. If there are any ideas you have about how we can be more effective, please let us know, and we'll let you get on with your day. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks so much. I also recommend that if you can go around schools, and especially in the community for public schools, there's a lot of families out there that has testimony. They can use that to use those testimonies and everything. I speak with parents briefly. Some are afraid to come out and say anything, but most of the part they will. And we can use those testimonies or anything they're going through to, present this to you guys, or furthermore, give this information to legislators or anything like that to push these bills and to push funding for the people that needs real help. We're not talking about people that just need the help and they don't really need it. These people that really need it want to better their lives. They want to live off of funds. They want to do better.
Gina, what area are you calling from?
Atlantic City,
Oh, okay.
New Jersey.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
again. Really powerful.
We put some stuff in the chat as far as CPAC, some other things that we're doing. I know we didn't get a chance to talk about all the things. So we do have a youth mental health summit that's coming up on May 27th. So we are partnering with schools. So last year we had 150 youth. So I'm super excited that we will probably double that this year, just talking about youth and the mental health in that space. We have baby shower coming up because the community is still in need, right? And so even though all these crazy things are happening, as a country, we have seen this before. And so we know we still have to band together and pull all of our resources together. So we will be having a baby shower, a community baby shower on April 27th. And it's a couple other things Andrew had dropped in the site and in the chat too. And then you can also go to our website, cpacsj.org. And please reach out to us if you need anything from us that we can help out. So Tim and Tom, thank you so much for pulling us all together, and Kathy and everybody. Thank you.
Any other final thoughts? I'm looking at Diana Cooper's face here and haven't heard. Deanna, do you have any final thoughts?
No, time is well spent, and all I would be doing is echoing what everyone else said. Thank you.
I just saw a note from Jennifer about your exhaustion. And I think the final thing that we really need to figure out how to do is to support one another. I mean, this is tough. And in addition to supporting people in the community, we really need to how to figure out how to support one another as best we can, and love and respect each other as we go through this. And as I said, and I'm going to say it as a final thought again, we are at the position now where we can really make a difference for the future if we stick together and show up. So thanks again, and we can end this Zoom. Thanks.
Thank you all.